All right, welcome to another episode of the EsportsNext podcast. It is my pleasure, along with my lovely co-host, the founder of the Esports Trade Association, Megan Van Petten, to welcome my fellow Sac State Hornet, Mr. Gordon Hinkle.
Fingers
Stingers
up.
up, my friend.
Of course, my finger's a little crooked from I broke in football, but
You've been doing it too much. Your finger's tired.
yeah,
You got to hold it up.
yeah. Take note of Sac State. I'm doing it so much it's crooked now.
Megan, just for the non-Sac State alum on the call, that's apparently what we do. Stingers up because we're
Oh, I
Hornets.
didn't know that. That's so
Hornet.
cool. Oh,
That's right. You're not supposed to do it curved like Gordon's weird
Oh,
pinky
give my
is
left
doing.
hand. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, do it with that.
The lefty.
Gordon, we feel so privileged to have you to be one of our valued members at the Esports Trade Association. And I think it was 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, that we met actually at EsportsNext. And
Yeah.
this year, you were the recipient of the Social Impact Award due to the amazing work you do with College Esports International. Tell us a little bit about the work that you guys do at CESI.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you again for the award to ESTA. Our membership with ESTA has meant everything to our company as a new kind of baby company, like taking off in esports, like getting the resources and the networking and the friendships we make through ESTA is huge for us. So thank you for that. But to answer your question, we do a lot of engagements with colleges, universities, even high school students around the nation to help promote their esports activities, clubs, whether that means helping them find fundraising opportunity to boost their own on-campus activities, or even to provide them resources that they don't have or can't get on their own. We step in and kind of be a conduit, a help agent to the schools. So everything from scholarships to really the bigger picture issues that we talk about, which are career pathways through esports, because being a multi-billion-dollar industry, even if you're not the greatest player, there's a place for everybody in that ecosystem of esports. You know, like me, like I play a lot, but I suck.
That
It's
is,
a lot of fun. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty common for us mere mortals off the stage who love to work in the space, but
Right.
not be winning competitions on the stage for sure.
Right. So most of our events and tournaments and activities will engage with Fortune 500 companies or tech companies, or whether it's broadcasting or digital marketing or logistics. I mean, there's so many different pieces that are fascinating. And we share all those with the students, and a lot of time they're blown away themselves because they love the games. They show up to our event thinking they're just going to play a game, but they leave with an idea of where they want to go to school or what they want to do for a career. They make contacts, connections that are bigger than just the game itself, but it's also the relationships.
Yeah. Well, we see high school and college esports is booming now, right? I believe high school is probably the fastest growing aspect of the space. And so I'm sure you're talking to a lot of parents.
Yeah.
What is the response to these parents when you're encouraging their kids to play video games more?
Well, the first thing they usually say is, "You can make money playing video games." And our answer is, yeah. Not only can you make money if you're really good, but your kid could get a scholarship and just help fund their education. When they hear that, their ears perk up because they're like, "What?" So I guess I shouldn't tell my kid not to waste his time playing video games. He could actually, he or she could actually get like support going to college.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, definitely. And not only that, but even more so, the thing that's rewarding to me being in this industry is that when you see young people who don't necessarily have a place to fit in, they're not a football player or basketball player, but they have that competitive drive. They want to be part of something. They can join an esports team or club. And even if they're not the best player, they can find a support role oftentimes, and they're welcomed into those groups on almost every campus. Like some of the colleges we work with have 500 to 1,000 students involved in their esports programs, and it blows my mind. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's not always, are you part of the competitive team? A lot of times on these campuses, it's you're part of the club you're meeting other like-minded individuals in person and having opportunities to get together, where otherwise you may not, because what you do has not formed a club or a team like traditional sports and other
Yeah, even
industry.
even like at our own alma mater, like we've met individuals who played on the team, and they weren't necessarily the best player, but they found out that, hey, I actually am really good at coaching, even though I'm not the best player, but I know kind of what the strategy should be, and they find themselves in a leadership role because they're now coaching. They played enough to understand the strategy behind the game, and they're able to tell and help orchestrate better players than maybe themselves, and so they end up being coaches of their peers, and so that those kind of relationships are very common. Then you get like individuals who are really into videography or broadcasting, and they show up to every event just to be part of the broadcasting team or to be part of the IT team or the setup team. And it's really just encouraging to see how everybody kind of finds their place quickly within the environment, and they know where they like to jump in and take part. So that's very rewarding. And then we talk about all those skills and how now do you apply all those skills you're learning into a potential for a job with some of the biggest companies in the world,
Right.
whether it's LG or ViewSonic or whoever it might be. Those opportunities are usually exist through a lot of our sponsors at our event. They're coming in and they're looking to be engaged with the esports communities, and we do a lot of internships with pro teams, with tech companies. Those are very fun engagements, and that's where we thrive at CESI.
Yeah, speaking of sponsorship, if I could think of one person that's a rock star at it, you're very humble, very likable, great guy. I've known you many years, been to several of your events. As a matter of fact, this is long-winded. When I was in Las Vegas, I've never been to more events than with you to meet more people that bridged with that one trip. I mean, we were at like 4 different places in one day
Oh yeah,
that totally overlapped
it
in the
is.
strangest ways and then landed in a dinner together.
Yeah, I have to say I give a lot of that credit to my co-founder and partner, Margaret Wong, who kind of helped us, launch CESI, because she's an international businesswoman. She has so many amazing connections, and we're very lucky at CESI to have that kind of leadership.
Yes.
Margaret brings to the table just amazing relationships and friendships for us. And then, she and I have been working together on different levels for the past 13, 15 years. So we really have this really unique dynamic where we have a lot of educational partners, a lot of tech partners, a lot of global strategic partners. That's why we have the I in CESI for international, is because we do have teams all over the globe. We have our own teams in Shanghai that we can lean on for Asia markets. We have partners in the Netherlands. We have partners in South America, Canada. So we truly have a footprint in multiple countries. And we are really heavily focused on our US activity as a new company, but we're looking to expand our relationships to grow globally for a lot of the opportunities we're seeing internationally as well.
That's
amazing.
incredible.
It really is.
And
Right?
if you can just bring me back to eat at that restaurant she owns in Sacramento again,
Yes.
I'll just be your friend.
Yes, a little plug for a couple of our restaurant partners. Actually, there's three. Yu Huang in Sacramento, which is a Michelin rated dim sum restaurant. We have
Mhm.
Empress M in Napa, which is another partner, which we're doing an event this Thursday. So if you want to come out to Napa, anybody, just shoot me a note. And then we have locally in Sacramento, Rock and Soul Diner, which houses our esports lounge in downtown Sacramento on 10th and S Street. And Rock and Soul has awesome diner food, comfort foods. It's just a fantastic restaurant.
Looks like we're going back to Sacramento, MVP.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
please,
I
please.
had dim sum with Gordon and Margaret in Vegas.
Yeah, that's right. That's a
It's hard
famous
to be.
restaurant, by the way, too. I think they have one in Shanghai, in the Shenzhen D, famous like food area.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Well, speaking of those restaurants in Sacramento, the reason why I had the opportunity to go eat there with you guys were so kind to invite me out to the
Yes.
California State Fair.
Oh no, thank you for coming, John. You did an amazing job.
He really
I-
does. I think and I know you're mid-sentence, John. I have to just say though, he's in his element when he's at an event doing broadcasting.
Yeah, thank you. Well, so everybody knows we were doing the state fair competition, and John did interviews for all our special guests who were there. We had professional Call of Duty players, and we had DJs, and we had featured public, influencers for NRG. So a lot of fun engagements, and John was there to cover it all for us and put together a lot of great material. So thank you for that. I saw your postings on LinkedIn. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, well, thank you. There's more coming.
I know. I just
Love
saw
it.
one
Love
like
it.
yesterday, and I was like, "Oh, they're still coming."
Awesome. Thank you.
He's just curating in the middle of the night, weekend.
Getting up early, drinking this coffee. Well, I thought it was so cool and so culturally relevant that you had such a impactful footprint there at the California State Fair,
Yeah.
right? I think everybody has been to a state fair wherever you live in Texas. Like you might want to bring the Tums with you because everything is fried. Things that shouldn't be fried are fried multiple times. And
extra oil.
yeah, you've got concerts, you've got in Sacramento, they've got the whole agriculture area with and the animals and horses and sheep, all these things going on, and then you've got a huge esports space, and it was really cool. Shout out to Cal Expo for either having the vision or hearing the vision, possibly from you, Gordon, of hey, you should have this here. But just share a little bit about bringing such a culturally relevant and innovative, piece of entertainment into something that is pretty legacy,
Yeah.
completely across
Yeah,
the
no, it's a
country.
great. I grew up going to Cal Expo and being from Sacramento like you, John. As a kid, I went every year with my friends, and we would go, ride all the rides and see all the different activities going on, the concerts. So this year was no different. In fact, even though it's always seemed to be the hottest time of year, unfortunately, but the concerts were amazing. You had Boys to Men, Leanne Rhymes, like a lot of big time stars were coming through on the stage. And so the Isley Brothers, like just a lot of well-known artists. So you get that environment as one piece of it. And historically, you're right. It's always, all the 4-H and the animals, which is great. But I think what Cal Expo deserves a lot of credit for is bringing the fair into the modern age, which is competition for esports, kind of like brings a whole different look to the fair, and a newer generation that maybe is not as engaged in the agriculture or the farming, which I love because those are my people, Central Valley, a lot of our friends are from there. And
Where I'm
so
from. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Shout out Reedley, California. You've never heard of it, but it's there.
I know Ridley very well. And so you get this great mix of now you got all the traditional stuff, but now you're adding components that are something new and exciting for younger generations. Or even for us, who played video games when we were growing up. Like I get excited just seeing that you're actually putting together a formal tournament and activity for people to engage in and then be recognized, like with the big fair ribbons and the trophies that are traditionally, for those for historical pieces of the fair. We're adding a new element and kind of bringing it into the 21st century. And Cal Expo did a great job of that this year.
They sure did.
It's so exciting. You could do this now for any fair across the nation or the world, per se. And why wouldn't you? I mean, you can make your pies, you can have your hot dog eating contests, and having your game experience.
Exactly. And I think that a lot of the fairs are realizing that they got to add something new that brings it into, the modern age. And esports are it. Esports are hot. So it's a growing industry, and it was a huge success for us to do this at the state fair. And we're already planning for next year. Can't wait to see how we can improve on it. We learned a lot from what we've done just in this last year's Bear Cup event is what we call it for the state of California. Our flag is the bear. That's why it's called the Bear Cup. So for those who don't know the tie-in to the Bear Cup, that's it.
I did not know the tie-in to the Bear Cup. And
the Bear Cup because our state flag is a bear.
California state flag's a bear. Okay. Right. Interesting.
So with that kind of background, we're seeing this kind of engagement and interest from other states now because of the success. We had 30 teams from around the state coming in to compete. Most of them were college universities, but we also had 2 high schools and a middle school that actually took second in the Super Smash Bros. Competition. So middle schoolers won $1,200 competing at the state fair. So
That's so
we gave
fun.
away, yeah, it was incredible just to see the engagement. They got to
Yeah.
play against a college team, and even though they couldn't win the whole thing, they got to be on that stage, and it generated a lot of excitement in the community because they're like, a middle school took second, like how, what, we want to participate next year. So I'm already
Yeah.
getting calls from high schools and middle schools saying, how do we get involved next year? So I have a feeling it's going to be even bigger next year. So we're excited.
Well, and one thing that I took away, and it was really from interviewing you, Gordon, as I was asking you questions and learning more about exactly what you were doing and how you were doing it, is, it's so important for especially these legacy events to innovate, right? Because years and years ago, like little Johnny was all about going to the state fair. Guess what? Now he wants to play video games. That doesn't
Mhm.
mean he won't enjoy the other things, right?
Right.
But a
Yeah.
couple things that I took away from seeing the activation in person that I thought was really well done. First of all, was there wasn't a tournament going on the entire time.
Mhm.
So if you wanted to just, hey, take a break from the heat, you're inside an air conditioned environment. Shout out to you and your team for coming up with something that's inside and air conditioned. But it's hot out there. A lot of these state fairs, regardless of
Mhm.
state, it's during the summer. So you're able to go, your kid's not complaining because they're engaged doing the thing that they want to do. And then the other thing that was really striking to me that I remember asking you was, how do you deal with all these different esports titles?
Mhm.
Because they're different publishers, right? And they don't always like to be next to each other.
Mhm.
And because the space is owned, it's a fairgrounds space, you're not having to pay those like venue fees for every single day. And the answer that Gordon gave me, and I'll let you expand on this, Gordon, was each day was a different tournament with a different video game title.
Right. Right.
So you didn't have to worry about, oh, Valorant is next to Halo or Rocket League or what have you. Share a little bit more about um, how you plan that out to make it flow so well, and also over the amount of time that you had too.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. And I think you hit it right on the head because we want each one of the games to stand out as its own star. So if we're gonna do Rocket League, we're gonna play Rocket League that whole day. So that's gonna be the star of the day. So we didn't want to have conflicting titles of games going on. But what we did do is we had a free play area that never stopped. So while tournaments are happening, there's a free play area where anybody coming off the street can come in, sign in, and they can play whatever their favorite games are, both on console or on PC. And so that, I think that was what made it really unique, is that even if the game that was being featured wasn't your favorite game, you could go off to the side and with your friends play a different game. But still, we're not going to interrupt the highlighting whatever title game we're playing for that day. And you got 3 weeks at a fair. That's not easy. Like usually when we do a big event at an arena or at a
Yeah.
different venue, it's maybe 2 days or three at the most. So
Mm.
3 weeks, it made sense for us to just let each game shine on its own without being, having to try to mix titles in different days. So we just give the schedules out in advance. You could scan a QR code to find out what was happening. And then we did a lot of like individual, like free, like anybody could join type of events too that were happening outside of our Bear Cup. So the Bear Cup were
Oh, cool.
structured for the schools specifically, but then we had public tournaments that were just happening off the cuff. So maybe we got 10 people sign up within the hour, or maybe we get 20. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. We're going to do it and give away some prizes for those public tournaments. So that made it fun for anybody coming in that saw what was happening and said, I
Yeah.
want to be part of it. We would say, oh, you can sign up today or tomorrow if you want to join a public tournament. And then they could sign up and jump right in and feel like they're part of the action. And I think that's where we plan to even improve those kind of experiences. And then the other thing that I think made it unique was we had a great anchor partner in Highlands Community Charter School that was
Right.
they were doing simulations of job training through gamification and VR, that they had set up kiosks so that even if you weren't playing games, you were learning something. And they were showing how that they do their driving schools for, adult trainings for, big rigs and, heavy equipment operation through VR technology. And so that brings that whole tech and innovation where it merges in the gamification and the education side. And I think really made it a special event because not only was it fun and engaging, but it was also educational all at the same time.
Hmm. And I really give you guys kudos because it's not just, oh, put on a tournament or plug some PCs in. It's the people, the company that does it, who really knows what they're doing, who are engaged with the community, and that is absolutely you guys at CESI.
Yeah.
You've talked a little bit about obviously the state fairs. You mentioned the high schools, the college you've worked with. I'm looking at the logo on your right sleeve on my left, I believe, and I think it's the other one.
Yeah, right here.
And Kingsguard Gaming, which is the NBA 2K team for the Sacramento Kings. So you guys are also partnered with an NBA team as well. What are
Yeah,
you
so
doing with that?
I have to give big kudos to the Sacramento Kings and Kingsguard Gaming because for us as a company when we first started, it was doing stuff in partnership with the Kings and Kingsguard at the Golden One Center, which is one of the newest arenas in the NBA. So it's a beautiful location here in Sacramento. And so for us to get to do our one of our first big finals events at the Golden One Center, a lot of the students had never been on that big of a stage playing in an esports tournament. So when they walk into an arena and they're center stage and the jumbotron is all the way down on the floor, they walk in like with this, like I wish I just could like capture like with each face, like what we saw, like just going, whoa, like the excitement that they get being in that
Yeah.
arena. And like, and then even the King's Guard were like, hey, we don't even play our matches in the center of the floor. Like, how did you guys score that? So I'm like, hey, well, we need to plan something together to do your NBA 2K games there too. So we're talking about that. But no, the Kings have been amazing. We're hoping that we can be a support to them in promoting NBA 2K as a game within the collegiate ranks. So we're hoping to continue that relationship and see what CESI can do to promote other games because you got your five typical big games that all the colleges are playing right now. But there's so many other games that could have a foothold in collegiate competitions if they were presented, in different ways. So we're trying to help, showcase different games and opportunities, whether it's like with the Kings Guard and NBA 2K, or whether it's VR gaming, like doing competitions with VR, doing some creative activities that kind of set us apart. So that relationship is really, really special to us, and we're very thankful to have an NBA partner like the Kingsguard Gaming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I again tip my hat to you. If there's one thing I'm asked the most is how do I get sponsorship? And I really hope that you consider teaching one of our leadership courses. We do 12 this next year on 12 topics. You really are gifted in your relationship cultivation and collaboration. And yeah, I would love to know, what do you do? How did this all, like, first of all, I would love to know how this all got started, and what do you do for you to keep doing all that you do?
Oh, good questions. No, that's a very good question. Cultivating sponsorship is definitely something you have to work at. They're not just going like
Right.
most big corporations or companies that have the dollars to spend on sponsorship. You need to give them a value add for whatever they're going to bring to the table.
Mhm.
So if they're going to give you dollars towards your event, how is it you can give them the marketing benefit? How can you give them the PR benefit? How can you actually meet their company goals and objectives? So you really have to tailor like your programs to meet your sponsors, not the other way around. We don't just throw them into our event. Once we have like sponsors engaged, we try to tailor our event to what the sponsors are looking for. So, and I don't mean that means with everything, like you can't be everything to all companies, but you can know the culture of the companies you're showcasing, and you could find those commonalities and then highlight those. That's what we try to do at CESI. So I'll give you a good example. Alaska Airlines has been an amazing sponsor of ours for like our last three big events. And what do? They help with travel. So all the universities come into our events. A lot of them we're showcasing Alaska Airlines as an opportunity for their airline needs. We try to bring them discounts and coupon codes and links their specials. So where it doesn't always work for everybody, but even if it doesn't, that's meeting the need of a company like Alaska Airlines that wants to showcase their brand. And maybe people didn't know that they had a flight going from, one city to the other. And once we highlight that through our event and we show our participants like using their airline as their airline of choice, then that becomes an immediate benefit. So that's just one example. But I think the key really is relational too. You have to be able, you can't be afraid to reach out and ask the people you want to be part of your event. If you're seeing a potential corporate sponsor that they would be perfect for this, and you get that gut feeling, then you got to go talk to them. You can't be afraid to reach out, because I think most people are afraid to make the first call or the first email, whatever. So you can't be shy to make that first contact, because oftentimes I think I'm just shooting in the dark. I'm like, oh, well, I don't know if they're ever going to respond. And those are sometimes end up being my best partners. Like, I'm glad you asked us, because, we've been looking for something like this. Like, if you don't ask, you're not good. Like, you don't ask, you're not going to receive. Like, that's, my parents taught me that when I was a kid. Like, I didn't know you're hungry because you never said you were hungry, right? You gotta go out and make the ask. And that's really the first step that gets the ball rolling. So you just can't be shy. You got to do it.
And that's one of the reasons why we ended up honing in on the leadership focus. That is leadership, literally just being bold and being comfortable making that first, introduction of yourself. That takes something.
Yeah, definitely. And so, and I find I love that part of what I do, because I get to reach out and meet a lot of times our community leaders, and they're really engaged. Like, if you have companies in your city or your county that are active, that's where you go to first. Who's already invested in your local area? I mean, those are people wanting to get together to do things. So, there's so many, almost every community has its strong partners. So just reach to those first locally that would be a good fit, and then branch out from there, just based on whatever you're trying to achieve. So we take that to heart in trying to build relationships, and then keep those relationships by delivering. Like, we bend over backwards to make sure that we highlight our great partners at every turn. Like, I wouldn't have won our social impact award with ESTA if it wasn't for my partners. So that's the first people we want to thank and recognize: the Kings, ViewSonic, Alaska Airlines, Raising Cane's, Sacramento River Cats. Like, these are the people that helped us build our company, because they believed in us when nobody else did. So I want to, at every turn, I want to give them a shout out, because I'm so thankful for what they've done to help us grow.
Yeah, I think you make a tremendous point there of adding additional value to your sponsors.
Yeah.
And some people can see sponsorship as, I'm so cool, or I'm doing something so awesome or relevant that they just want to be a part of it, right? Mm-hmm. And we hear it this often of like, I need people to support my passion. You hear that in all sorts of ways. And the truth of the matter is, everybody needs a value add.
Yeah.
And so the reason why someone sponsors you is, first of all, that they are going to accomplish their goals, whether that's more sales or it's awareness or these other things. They're going to accomplish their goals more effectively if they pay you than if they don't, or if they pay someone else. Yeah. Right. And so understanding, like, receiving those sponsorship dollars, that is when the work starts, not when the work ends. And then the other point I want to make, and I'm really curious of your perspective on this, Gordon, because you're so good at doing this, is taking the time to learn someone's goals before you pitch them your service.
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick example. Is when I was at GameStop, I learned a lot about pitching because so many people pitched me, So I was like, this landed well, that did not land well. Don't follow up with someone that often, like learning from all these people hit me up. No names. Don't worry. But so many people assumed what my goals were.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, oh, it's this, and you've got to pivot to digital and XYZ. And so I just got pitched all these pitches, like, to pivot to digital, and that was not our KPI, because our competitive advantage was the employee in the store. The employee in the store knew games much better than the employee in stores that were our competitors.
Yeah, yeah.
If we could get someone in the store, they could help mom, dad, or the kid find the right game, the safe game for them, sort of a thing.
Yep.
If somebody had taken the time, and a few people did, but to say, John, what do you want to accomplish?
Hmm.
And they learned that and they came to me with a solution for that, I could find money for that
Yeah.
because it's a business priority, right? Set by leadership. Share a little bit about how you go about, you know, from like reaching out to somebody and rather than just saying, I'm cool, give me money. What do you say instead?
No, that's true. I learned the kind of the same thing throughout my career because I used to work for a chamber of commerce and we dealt on a number of different issues with a lot of great businesses like all across the spectrum from tech to your mom and pops, so I've always known that as someone dealing with business owners that if you're not talking their language, like why should they care?
Right.
So that's kind of where we approach them. So yeah, we have inspiring ideas which we think are cool and exciting, but how am I going to now take who you are and make it feel like that's part of what you are too, right? So
Right.
when we're talking to a potential sponsor, we want them to feel like this is as much part of their DNA as it is ours. Like we don't want to just be us. We want it to be a joined partnership. And so when you can kind of draw on that commonality, I think it really resonates that you're recognizing what their specialty is. If I bring in a food partner like Raising Cane's, I let them showcase at some point their food. Like, I mean, that's what they do. That's what they're
Yeah.
good at. So I'm going to
Look at
do
that
a
sauce. My
yeah,
goodness.
that
That
I've
sauce.
sauce.
never had it.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
it's
I
fantastic. So
don't know
we're
if they
gonna.
have it in Chicago yet.
Oh,
I'm
it's
gaining
so
weight
good.
just thinking about it. It's
Yeah,
that
it is.
good.
It's really
It's
good.
delicious. It's
So yeah,
mayonnaise.
so like for our competitors, like they get a chicken sandwich with that cane sauce, like they're in heaven. So that's what they do, and then they walk away with a smile because they got to share what they do, right? So I'm not,
Right.
it's one thing just throwing up a logo, and I think you're right. A lot of people like feel like, oh, I got this great sponsor, and then they just kind of it's a feather in their cap, without realizing that's not the end of it. You got that great
That's the
sponsor, but
beginning. It
that's just the beginning. How are you going to
really
keep them
is.
happy?
Yes.
How are you going to make sure that their objectives are met? Like, and
Mhm.
we're not perfect at that either. As a new company,
Of
you
course.
don't
Sure.
you don't always hit everything out of the park. So we will if we feel like we didn't live up to what we promised to sponsor. I go back next event, following event, and say, hey, we're going to give you this for free because like
Yeah.
we feel like we gave you enough at the last event, and they
Mhm.
love. I mean, they're so thankful. They're like, wow, that's nice. We didn't even, you didn't have to do that. And we're like, no, we feel a commitment. Once you've supported us, like we feel a commitment to those companies because they don't have to. They have limited budgets that could go towards marketing, that could go towards a new employee. So every penny that they're spending is coming out of their budgets for something. So you have to value that investment that they're making in
Yeah.
you even if they got tons of money to throw away. That's the misnomer. I think the too many think, oh, they're a big corporation, they can afford x amount of dollars to help us out. Well, that doesn't mean they're going to come back to you if you don't give them a value add. So
It ain't
Yes.
the charity budget,
yeah,
the marketing budget.
it's a marketing budget. Exactly. And of course, big corporations have different buckets for their monies too. So knowing
Right.
how to go after different buckets of money within a company too, to know
Mm.
where they're coming from is important as well, because some have marketing dollars, some have like community outreach dollars. Like that's a different objective. So if their bucket is like reaching out to community, you got to help them reach out to community. But if they're just trying to get that logo in as many places they can within a certain amount of time frame, then do it. Just get their logos out, anywhere you can paste it. So you have to know where their buckets of money are coming from, what their objectives are, what their DNA as a company is, what makes them special, and how does that tie to your company. So we take that to heart. We don't know, like I said, we're not perfect. We don't always hit it out of the park, but we try to showcase what they do well.
Well, and I think your awareness of that and your striving towards that probably helps you, hit the bullseye more often than not, and then a lot of other partners. Um, Second to last question for you here as we're rounding out our episode is you're doing so much, which is so incredible and inspiring. And so if I'm a listener of this episode, I'm thinking, okay, you're doing stuff with charter schools, you're doing state fairs, you're doing colleges, NBA teams. This guy is an incredible sponsorship guy, apparently.
Well,
But
as good as I'd like to be.
but the question I might be asking myself is, how do I work with you? So if I am these different groups, can you help our listeners understand what is the most effective way to work with you if I'm saying, hey, I want to put on an event or something like that? What's the best way to get that started?
I think of what I talked about earlier, which don't be afraid to reach out, like just connect with us, because we're going to be receptive to almost any idea if it relates to esports. And so our composite of our company is built around esports activity, education, and career pathways. So if it fits in one of those buckets, in any way, shape, or form, we're probably going to want to have a discussion with you. So, and especially if one leads to the other, like if the esports turns into a job or a scholarship or a opportunity or a partnership to promote tech or innovation, or to help, different communities out that don't have access to esports, then we're gonna want to listen to what you have to say. So that would be my answer to that question is, first of all, don't be afraid to reach out to us. Knowing what we do, we're always happy to engage in and collaborate.
Fantastic. So if you are looking to put on an esports event, definitely reach out to Gordon. What are the ways that people can connect with you in the way that you would like them to?
Yeah, if they go to our website, which is www.cesiesports.com, you can see what we're doing. You can contact us there. You can also go to social media and just search CESI esports on whether it's LinkedIn or whether it's Instagram, Facebook. We post most of our events there. We do a weekly local event here in Sacramento for whether it's a Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, or we try to put on a weekly event at our Rock and Soul diner partner. So we always have local events happening. So we get people coming from, far away sometimes just to participate and see what we have going on. Those are fun. So just look us up on social media, through our website, through our Twitch channel, Discord, all those typical platforms that gamers love to go to. We're on all of them. So you can reach out to us, and all those will filter to me or someone from my staff. So we love getting those messages. I try to respond to every personal message I get on LinkedIn and my profile. May not be immediately, but I'll get back to you. So don't hesitate.
Love that. So those listening, watching, take that call to action, reach out to Gordon. I've experienced that it's not just what you do, but who you do it with. That is so important. And I can assure our listeners, Gordon and his team are wonderful people to work with. So with that, anything?
We feel the same about ESTA, and this, our plug to those listening is, for those listening, that we not only have our CESI activities, but we're helping to spearhead a Northern California chapter for ESTA. So if you have general esports interests, and it's not directly related to college or high school, still reach out to us, because we can connect you through ESTA. All of our wonderful friends and partners, whatever activity you might be doing related to this industry, it's just an incredible group of people.
Well, thank you so much. And part of the reason why our group is developed into an incredible community is yourself and your team.
Right.
So thank you for being part of that.
Appreciate it.
Well, with that, thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to my next trip to Sacramento. Some more dim sum, if you're up for it. And thank you for joining us today on this podcast episode of the EsportsNext podcast.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Megan.